What's up, everyone? I hope you are doing well. Welcome to our How to AI Proof Your Online course. This is a strategy session slash workshop for therapists that are building something that lasts. If you guys are joining us live, please say hello. I'm joined by Melanie Weigel, my executive assistant and STC's head of operations. Melanie is a whiz when it comes to online business. And we're going to be, I told Melanie even before starting our workshop, like, hey, do you mind just doing this together? Because it'd be fun. And just the way that I think we support one another. And think through stuff. So, Melanie, do you mind just introducing yourself? How long you've done this online business stuff, your experience with courses, and all of that, and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to be here and to help support. I've been working with Mel for a while now, and I have been in the online space for 14 years, so a really long time. I've seen basically it all behind the scenes of businesses, and I specialize in launch strategy, operations, and tech. So I really step in to help support with those areas and make sure that all of our members of community are supported with that as well. And I will be in the chat with you guys. So if you have questions or anything comes up, please let me know and I will be sure to reply and make sure all of your questions are answered.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. It's so great to see you guys. I see 8 folks already live with us. Please, again, as we were even thinking about this workshop, we we wanted it to be genuinely interactive. So there's no such thing as a silly or dumb question. We have learned a lot, and I feel like even now we make lots of mistakes. And so we want this to be more of a conversation versus like, hey, this is us talking down to you or anything like that. Um, the other thing is just on a tech side, the software we're using, it's cutting off some of the stuff on the side. Most of our stuff is right in the middle, but if there's like a little bit of cutting off, it's kind of a tech issue. We were trying to figure it out, but we couldn't quite dial it in. And so, uh, but we'll roll with it. So it's all good. So, um, all right. So, first of all, this is not sort of a hype workshop. That's not really how we operate. It's more, I know that many of us are already have an online course out in the world or are thinking about an online course. And so, more of what we wanted to do is we wanted to make this a quiet strategy session for clinicians that are thinking deeply about courses and how to navigate this sort of world of online courses. So this specifically, this space is for you if you're either thinking about your first online course, you already have one out there, but feel this uncertainty around AI. How will AI impact people that are signing up for my course? Especially because AI can deep research a whole bunch of stuff. Will this make my course irrelevant? And also, this is for you if you are someone that generally operates from a very grounded nervous system. You want resilience and not just a bunch of hype or noise. Um, the biggest thing, you'll see this message a lot of times. I have been in the online business space coming up on 11 years. I've been a course creator also for coming on 11 years. We've had the incredible privilege of having 2 products, one online course and one online course mastermind, that have both hit the $400,000 revenue mark. So in the process of all of that, we've learned a lot of lessons, and I'm very much in the course creation space, both as a course creator, but also to helping colleagues think about what their first online course is, and if they have an existing one, how do you sustainably scale it? The biggest lesson I would say is AI isn't replacing courses. What it's doing is it's replacing forgettable ones. And I actually feel like that may be a real blessing in disguise because for most of us as clinicians, we have very targeted niches and populations that we serve, usually in clinical practice. And so the course that we're creating, they're not going to be generally a broad course. So for example, they might be a course on CBTI for sleep or something like that that's very specific. Melanie, let me turn it over to you. Like, even as you're thinking about this phrase, like, what are you also seeing in the market that's like, how this core space is evolving, especially now with AI becoming so much a part of our culture?
Yeah, I actually see it a lot. And I think the biggest thing is you're seeing a lot of the same kind of cookie cutter thing where everything looks the exact same because it's being created by AI. So I think that the biggest thing is AI can't, I mean, Mel says this all the time, but AI can't replace who we are. But I think that there's a difference between using it like intentionally to support and actually letting it create something for you that isn't your true genius. That's kind of where we get into like it being replaceable and not forgettable because people aren't connecting with something that it's not real, right? Like it's not coming from your personality and like who you are and how you help people. So, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm seeing right now is still being genuine to who you are and who you support.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And we'll talk more about this. Like, how do you bring yourself into the course, but not just the content, but also in the other facets that you create? Because the the reality is, right, there's what we broadly see, and this is both within the field but outside of the field as well, just in the general course creation space. Most course creators are reacting in one of three ways because of AI. Either there's like full-blown panic, like I got to shut down my course, or I'm not gonna like launch this because AI is just gonna take it over. There's also this pattern. What we see is within courses there's like what I call like trend chasing. So i.e., somebody creates an online course because it's a popular and trending topic, not necessarily because they have expertise or they see themselves in that space for many, many years. The third way that we see is what we call ecosystem building. So, seeing the online course as part of a larger ecosystem. The best way I think about it is a suite of offerings. And so, your online course is one thing that you offer, but you might also have a book that's related to your online course, or you might eventually end up doing public speaking or keynotes or doing retreats that are related to the topic of your online course. I know that all of us, you're probably here just because particularly you're in that third batch where you're like, I don't really want to chase trends. I do feel a little bit uncertain about it, but I want to be thoughtful and intentional, and I want to figure out how to build this in a sustainable way. For me, on a personal level, why building something that lasts really matters to me. Three kind of things. One is I'm a licensed psychologist, if you don't know, and I got licensed in 2012, so 13 years ago. And from 2012 to 2020, I was in some version of clinical work. So individual therapy, couples, psych evals, those kind of things, a little bit of supervision as well. And in 2015, we live in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia got hit with the nor'easter. I was born in India. I grew up in Texas. I have no idea what a nor'easter was until I came here. And nor'easter is basically a giant blizzard that dumps a whole lot of snow. Like here, Philadelphia, we ended up getting almost 30 inches of snow. I was still in full-time clinical work at the time, working at a group practice, and I remember that I had to cancel several days worth of clients because the roads were basically like ice rinks, like ice hockey rinks. There was a sheet of ice. You couldn't really put salt down because either it wouldn't really melt through because it was under freezing. There were down power lines, a bunch of stuff, and it made me realize that trying to build an entire business or an entire career on trading time for income, which is what essentially many of us do as clinicians in private practice, it wasn't sustainable. The second thing that happened to me, and this is a picture actually from the NICU, if you have followed the Selling the Couch story, you know that I'm a girl dad, so we have a daughter, and but she was born 7.5 weeks early. She was 3 pounds and 12 ounces, and even at several months later, we were tracking her. The NICU doctors were, even after she got discharged, were tracking her, and we noticed she wasn't sitting up at the age that she was supposed to. So that led to a whole bunch of early childhood intervention 2 to 3 times a week, physical therapy just to develop her back muscles and all that stuff. So, practically, what that meant for me is I had to really redesign my business and also my clinical work around some of these appointments. And I realized further that life is only getting more complicated. Even now, we're entering a season of caregiving for aging parents. And I've realized that if I try to build an entire model based on trading time for income, the problem is it all then depends upon me. Um, the third thing for me is obviously with AI, I think a lot about not just AI, but like how do I want to show up? How do I want my career to evolve? There's, things down the pipeline for me, which I'll share more, but including book writing and, and coaching and a bunch of other things. And so, how does all of that kind of fit into the ecosystem? What we have found broadly, and we're going to go into each of these. Again, if you guys are joining us live, welcome. We, again, want to make this very interactive. So please leave comments in the YouTube live. Melanie is there. We'll answer questions. Please ask questions. We want to be a good resource for you more than anything. But the three pillars of an AI proof course, what we have found is sustainable community, blue ocean positioning, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that is, and then meaningful gamification. If any of that stuff feels like unfamiliar or uncertain, please don't worry at all. We'll explain all of that. So again, those of you guys that are coming in, we're having the software we're using is cutting off some of the stuff. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I can't see it, I'll try to, obviously read it, but just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So the first thing is sustainable community. So the biggest thing I would say AI has introduced, and Melanie, I'd love to hear your thoughts, is I think even like during the pandemic, right, especially as folks were more at home and had more discretionary income because everything was shut down, digital courses, i.e., you record something, put it out there, those did really, really well because there wasn't just people had a combo of discretionary income and more time, right? But now I think post pandemic, especially with AI, community, like having a community component to your online course has gone from being an optional thing to now an essential thing, right? And Melanie, I'll pause there, but Melanie, I'd love to kind of hear what you're seeing because you've worked with a number of folks launching courses. You see a bunch of trends. How
Yeah,
are you?
I
Yeah.
totally I totally agree with this. I think that this is something that is kind of a can't miss at this point because people aren't really doing courses that are just given to them and it's DIY. You have to kind of have to figure it out and go through it on your own time. What's really getting people not only in the doors but also the retention is feeling like you are in kind of like a family. You have a community, you have people supporting you. You really have that support, but with a lot of course creators, I think that there is like a fine line of you want to create a course to save yourself time. So how do we do that in a way where we're giving them the community that they need while also protecting our time as well? But I think that this is something that every course really needs to have so that people really feel supported in that way. Because yeah, especially working online too with COVID and working online, we just feel like really like cut off from the world, So it's good to have that community and support.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I know that all of us have seen this even in the clinical room. There's a real craving for depth and connection, right? And that same idea and concept, I think, has played out with online courses. So, in other words, AI can generate content, but it can't generate belonging. I heard it described this way that people come for the content, but they stay for the community. And
Right.
and I would say like really thinking through if I've got an existing course or I'm thinking about what's happening, or if I've got a future course, how do I create a sense of belonging where each of the students that are purchasing my online course can interact with us or our team, but also with one another in a meaningful way? So the three kind of ideas that I try to put together was this could look like small course circles. So could they be like little pods, right? Um, exchange over broadcasting. And so this is a huge shift, right? There, people are really valuing, hey, I want, I'm so glad, Mel created this course, but I want to hear from Laura who purchased Mel's course, right? So that's the biggest difference. And there is this weird like ego reconciliation. I feel like we have to have as course creators to be like, you know what, like I put the materials together. I brought these folks together, but actually the community and this whole course ecosystem is going to be more powerful when others exchange ideas, and how can I create the space for that exchange. Again, the I think that also speaks to this idea of identity over consumption. So the biggest thing is we call it like from a course to a village. So a traditional course centers on content delivery, right? So and we've seen this if you've ever purchased an online course, especially several years ago. Okay, this course includes this amount of videos, this bonuses, blah, 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 right? Those are all important, right? But the I think of it more again as sort of a instead of a single course with a bunch of videos, now it's like more of a ecosystem or a village. So a sustainable course centers on identity and exchange. So for example, with our podcasting course, right? We our course is for therapists that are podcasters, right? So that's a unique identity, right? And it also involves exchange. So how do we exchange ideas with the course creator, but also with one another? And how do we foster community in a meaningful way? The second thing is a traditional course is mostly one way, right? So you watch a video, you go to the next video, you might do some exercises. But now with AI, I feel like a sustainable course is dialogical and it is relational. So it's not just somebody logs in, student A logs in, student B logs in, student C logs in, they each consume the content. What we actually have to do is think about how can they consume the content through the videos, but then how do they take that knowledge and share it and impart knowledge to one another? Melanie, I'll if you don't mind sharing, even have you seen that sort of transition, or how are you thinking about it, and what patterns have you seen?
So I'm going to be completely honest. I was just closing everything down on my
Yeah.
computer
No,
because
no,
my
no.
screen was buzzing.
No,
So
no.
what are we
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
So the I think traditional courses have focused a lot on like I consume a video and then I consume the next video, right? I
Yep.
feel like this new sort of AI world, the course architecture is like more about I may consume the content, but I need space to be able to interact with the
Yeah,
course creator plus students.
absolutely. No, I think that's really important. And I think that, I mean, I think most of us can relate to this. We've been in some sort of a learning situation or maybe a course where you're just getting content kind of thrown at you and you're not really like sitting back and understanding it or putting it into action. So like all these new things, but there's a difference between learning it and actually doing it. So you definitely need the space in between to not only like like comprehend it and sit back and think about it. How am I actually going to, like work? How am I going to like actually put this into my business? So how am I going to implement it? Like really sit down and making sure that you understand all the steps instead of just having a ton of information thrown at you. And at the end of it, you're like more overwhelmed than anything, right? You're like, now
Yeah.
I have all this information, but what do I do with it?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I agree. I think it's good to have that space in between.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think even, and we all know this, right? Our generally people's attention spans are decreasing, right? So we're not just competing with our course material, we're also competing with Reddit and YouTube and TikTok and a bunch of other
Yeah.
things, right? And so one thing just to really think about is when you have those other factors that are competing for your core students' attention, what's actually going to strengthen the connection to you as a course creator and also to the material is how do they, one, does that course, what it's teaching, become a part of their identity, right? But two, do they actually have a meaningful place by which to exchange learnings, all of those kind of things? And for those of you guys that are coming in, welcome. It's so good to hear you. Please, to see you. Please leave your name. Let us know where you're joining us from in the comments. And then Melanie is also managing the chat. So again, we want to serve you well. So if you have any questions or anything like that, please leave it in the comment section. We'll definitely answer those and make this very interactive. So the other thing just to think about as we think about this concept of from course to village, a traditional course has traditionally felt transactional, right? So you might see the sales page for a course, or maybe somebody plugs it on whatever social media platform, right? Maybe they share it on LinkedIn. You go check it out on a sales page, and then literally you purchase the course, and it feels very transactional. A sustainable course, especially in this AI world, feels like belonging. And so this, I think, is a really important question to ask yourself. How do I not just like present material, but how do I create a sense of belonging within our course ecosystem or within my course ecosystem? Now, this can look like a bunch of different ways. And I know from all of us as clinicians, we live busy lives between clinical work, family obligations. Many of us are, caregiving. Many of us have kiddos. How do we do this in a sustainable way? Because this is a question I really weigh because, it's not as simple as, for example, start a Facebook group, right? And that creates community for your online course. It could be a solution, but it may not be the solution for you. For example, for me, one of the reasons why we did not do a Facebook group, or what we actually used to have one for our podcasting community, and then we shut it down. But the main reason was because I think I was like a little naive, if I'm just being completely honest. I didn't realize that it takes time to moderate it, right? It takes time to create conversation. And with for personally, right, with a young child at home and me trying to balance the things on the business side with family, it just became really hard to sustain it. One thing we've transitioned over to over the past several years is Voxer. And so Voxer is, again, this is an option. Focused less on the tool, but what it enables you to do. So Voxer, for example, allows us to create little communities and add people into those communities. But the best thing is, for you guys, probably aging myself here, but if you remember back in the day, those Nextel walkie-talkie commercials, what it allows you to basically do is leave voice memos to one another, or you can type out stuff, but it allows somebody that's busy and kind of moving from place to place to be able to log in and interact with other members without the pressure of getting on social media. I also know the other side of this, which is many of us have a love-hate, probably leaning toward hate with social media, and many of us actually want to spend less time on social media and more time like building authentic connections. And so something like a Voxer might be a really good option for you in terms of what your community could look like. Now, I alluded to this, but the one thing I would say is think in long runways with communities. So what do I mean by that? I think sometimes the thing is like, okay, sign up for Circle or Mighty Networks. All of these are great options, right? Or they'll say, start a Facebook group along with your community. All of those are great options, but the question always to ask yourself is, can I sustain this for 8 or 10 years, right? And if there's some part of you that's like, I don't think so, then it may not be worth considering doing it right then, right? Or it may be worth just looking at another option in terms of how to build your community. Now, one of the things that we're even starting to explore, and I'll share a little bit at the end, because we have a brand new community called Haven. And one of the pieces of that community is we're actually meeting up at two conferences throughout the year. So we basically will grab dinner together. We get to attend sessions together. And for me, I was like, that seems like such a cooler way to create community because we get to have an experience, shared experience of going to a conference, but we also get to build friendships and build all of those things and connections. Um, Melanie, when you think about like building community, how do you broadly like think about it? Like, especially this idea of like longevity, because you've done this now 14 years, right? And you've seen a number of, communities and courses and different ways of doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to your point about Facebook, I agree with you. I think that social media can be a problem because number one, people get distracted, and a lot of people like they'll just be scrolling and forget that they were even trying to go to the group or they're trying to get off social media altogether. And some people are on Facebook. So I think having something that's dedicated specifically to your community where people know that's where they go, that's where they check in with you, and they're not going to see a million other things. I really like Voxer. Telegram's kind of similar to Voxer as well, or you can even do something like School if you want that kind of a setup with the community right there in your course. But I do think it has to be something where people are going there specifically for that reason, so that they're not getting distracted and end up again feeling more overwhelmed than they should just coming to get support from you.
Yeah. And great points. And just to be like fully open and honest, even with our second product, our online course mastermind, we initially had a community in Circle. We had one in Boxer and one in Circle. And the reason I did Circle is I really liked visually how Circle looked, right? You could organize chats, you could do all these things. And then, but there was like an gut feel on this. I felt like, I wonder how many therapists would actually go into Circle, and it all bore out that way. Like a lot of them were just not there and interacting. And so this is something just kind of a like a caution thing, I would just say. A lot of these platforms, there's a lot of money in these sort of online community platforms, right? But really think about your ideal course student and whether they would like to interact in that community. Because otherwise, what happens is you'll jump into it, end up paying a whole bunch of money to like join these, but then you'll not have that interaction. The other side of this is do something that feels sustainable for you as a person, right? None of this will work if you can't interact in a sustainable way. So Voxer for me was like very purposeful because I get on Voxer twice a day. So one is like right after I finish working out around 6:15, and then the other is around 2:30 in the afternoon. Beyond that, I'm not really on Voxer, right? And the reason I do that is the 2:30 is like usually when I'm heading out to go pick up our daughter from school, right? And so it felt like I could put Voxer into the life that I was already living versus having to go and log in on a computer and, interact in that way. It just felt like much more sustainable.
We had a
That,
question, and
yeah.
Jared asked, how do you balance 8 to 10 years with learning what fits your work style gifting?
Oh, uh, how do you balance 8 to 10 with work style gifting? That's a great question, Jared. Um, I think for me, it's I think sometimes there's this idea like, okay, I know my work style is this way, and therefore I'm going to create something exactly conducive to that. Melanie, like, I would love to hear your thoughts. Like, for me, I think it's really hard to do in the early days, especially if you don't sort of have social credibility or social proof, right? I think some of the things that we're able to do now, I don't think I could have done in first several years of STC just because I didn't have that online reputation. So what I would say is I think I always say like imagine what your ideal scenario is and then pull back a little bit and say, okay, what are like if that's the ideal scenario, what are some things that I'm willing to flex a little bit on because I think I might get more students and more interaction in a sustainable way.
Yeah. And your business is going to change over time too.
Yeah.
So you might start out with just the basics. I just have to get it out there and get it started, and then you're going to grow it over time to what you really want it to be. So it doesn't have to all be, from day one. So I think there's going to be trial and error. There's going to be shifts in your business. But yeah, you really do have to think about, no matter what, you have to think about what's actually going to work for you, because at the end of the day, this is your business and you are starting it so that you can have, more freedom or whatever it is that you want while you're getting into this. So yeah, I would just think about that too.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think especially for us as clinicians, I feel like our compassion and our desire to serve is kind of our double-edged sword, right? It makes us great as clinicians, but the thing that it leaves us vulnerable to is we end up over optimizing or over sacrificing and creating what we think people need and at the expense of like our own mental health, right? So uh, even an example of this, just being honest, was when I first created Selling the Couch, Facebook groups were like kind of starting to get popular, and so I kept hearing like you need to start a Facebook group, and we did, and that Facebook group grew over the years to like just a shade under 10,000 clinicians, right? But the toll that moderating that Facebook group, the people were delightful, right? But the just the other things about moderating that group, like some of the tension that could come up in the group, all of that stuff I just didn't fully account for. And so, Jared, to answer your question, I think it's a slow transition, but do it in a way, always ask yourself, does this feel long-term sustainable for me? One mistake I made was I started doing things that I thought people needed, but the problem is over time you either get burnt out or you get resentful of it. So um, just shifting a little bit, we wanted to, so if community is the first thing to AI proof your course, the second thing I would say is what we call blue ocean positioning. So this is a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. I highly recommend checking out this book. And the idea behind this book is creating products and services where your whatever you are offering is the only option, and you're essentially going into marketplaces that are uncontested. So you don't win by competing, you win by standing where no one else stands. So here's as some of you know, earlier this year I created a second brand called Quiet Builder. So Quiet Builder is basically a ethos, a way of living, a way of designing businesses where it's less about like hustle culture, hustle vibe, that kind of stuff, but more about thinking about, okay, how do I build a successful business, but how do I prioritize my health and my well-being and all of those things into it, right? Uh, we call it kind of a home for reflective life first builders. And so part of when I was like thinking through that phrase of quiet builder, I started thinking like, is this something that's like a true like blue ocean opportunity, right? Meaning I feel like personally for me, I haven't really resonated a lot with sort of that hustle, culture kind of vibe in entrepreneurship because, I'm a dad, I'm a husband. There's a lot of other responsibilities that I'm handling, as all of us are. And so I also started thinking about Quiet Builder. So we launched one product earlier this year, which is like a paid newsletter called the Quiet Builder newsletter. But Quiet Builder is also morphing into something else, which is, this coming in 2026. I'm going to be creating something called the Quiet Approach, which is basically an experience for people who need their nervous system to remain calm because they're making decisions that involve other people's lives, where there's a significant movement of capital or where there is significant influence. And it basically combines golf with brain spotting. So we get out on a golf course. Golf shows how one handles stress and adversity because it's sort of a neutral playground, right? And I can then use brain spotting in real time to work with these folks who I'm going to be working with to learn how to calm their nervous system so they can essentially make informed and measured decisions when the stakes are really high and when the pressure is really high. So I started not just thinking about the newsletter, I started thinking about Quiet Approach. And then eventually I'm going to be writing my first book, which is Quiet Builder. That's sort of for like the mainstream society. And so I'm thinking of Quiet Builder as a blue ocean, but also like a multi-tiered sort of approach. Eventually, Quiet Builder will have its own courses as well. And so I'm thinking about it on multiple sort of levels. And that's something that I would definitely encourage you to think about. Melanie, I would love to hear your thoughts on this too. But I think a lot of folks think about, I'm just going to build a course and it's going to generate quote unquote passive income. But what I've seen is the best folks actually don't create a course. They create an entire ecosystem where potential students can enter at various points, right? So for example, for mine, some folks might do Quiet Approach with me. Others might just sign up for the Quiet Builder newsletter. Others might, read the book that I write. Others might invite me to speak at a conference, right, on Quiet Builder. So I'm thinking of it in multiple layers like that. What do you think, Melanie?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the most common level, it kind of looks something like you have a low cost offer that brings people in and something that kind of gets people thinking about what they want to do. And it's an easy win for you to get them in the door, right? Because it's like easy for them to buy and it's going to give them a quick win. And then they have something like your signature program, which is going to be kind of like your group coaching. And then maybe you do one-on-one coaching or speaking. So it can be something as simple as that kind of a setup. But yeah, having an offer suite for different types of people to come in and learn from you is going to capture people at different times in their career, right? So you'll get the people who are new, you'll get the people who are looking to scale. Maybe they've already had their business for a while. Um, but obviously, one thing at a time, right? You want to start with what your main course is going to be and kind of think about it from there. But yeah, whenever you have different offers, people have multiple ways of working with you and you have multiple ways to help people and support people. And then you have multiple streams of income. So you don't have to rely on just one thing. So yeah, total win win for everybody involved.
Awesome. So again, Quiet Builder is going to look something like this. There's going to be newsletter and courses. There's the Quiet Approach, the golf experience, and then there's going to be like a book and speaking. And so again, this is getting built out over the next decade. So it's not a like, next year kind of thing. But it allows strategic diversification essentially. The final piece of this is what we call meaningful gamification. So most online courses fail, not because they're bad, but because they're forgettable, right? So we increasingly live in a society where it's really weird if you even think about the transformation of society, let's say in the last 250 years, right? You went from where knowledge was often stored like in libraries where only the wealthy really had access to this knowledge, all the way to now this weird thing of like almost too much knowledge. And it's the people that actually can filter that knowledge that seem to be out there and doing interesting things. Now, it's also brought this whole other thing of like, as course creators, how do we, with all of this knowledge, people's attentions are going everywhere. How do you actually make your course memorable, right? So little things like gamification is basically adding elements of play and gaming into your online course. So for example, quests, not modules, milestones, not lessons. So as they finish lessons, maybe there's little rewards, identity shifts, not streaks. And so, Melanie, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this sort of gamification element of it, but I think the major thing is this is like a little thing that nobody really tells you about online courses, but online courses traditionally have lower completion rates, right? And so what we really want to do is how do we get our course to actually have significant completion rates? And the way to do that is to make it not just information regurgitation, but actually to make it interactive and fun.
I was about to say that exact same thing. The more you keep people engaged, the more they're going to stick around, the more they're going to show up, and obviously, then the more they're going to learn. So it's about like really interacting with them as opposed to just giving them information.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, which I would love even list, even just take a pause for those of you guys that are joining us live, and even if you're watching this later on replay, feel free to leave a comment. Where are you in the course creation journey? We would love to hear this. Like, so pre-course, meaning like I'm thinking about an online course, but I'm like worried about like AI. You have an existing course already out there, but now you're like feeling like, with AI, I feel a little bit shaky. Or you already have an existing course out there and you're like, hey, I'm like ready to evolve because I can see this AI it's going to change a lot of things, but I also know that I too can evolve. Would love to know. So pre-course, existing course, or existing course ready to evolve. Feel free to leave a comment in the chat. Would love to kind of hear how where you guys are. Okay, so your strategic move, right? So I would say define your community, think about what that looks like for you, clarify what your blue ocean shift is, i.e., how do you position your course in a way where you are the only option or there's no option? And then third is gamification. So redesign that sort of one learning moment, right? How do you take students through your course, but in a fun and entertaining way? Um, so even just to shift a little bit, I hope like for you, even thinking about those three things can has some kind of eyes light up moments, and we would even love to hear those in the chat. So feel free to leave them like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about it in this way. I would love to hear that. If you're watching this and you're like, hey Mel, this sounds really cool, but I don't want to do this alone, there's a calm container for this next step. We are actually introducing and creating a brand new community called Haven. So this is a community specifically for therapists going from clinical to online income. It's specifically focused on 5 areas. So online courses, podcasting, YouTube, speaking, and writing. So either digital writing or like book writing. So if any of those things are things that are on your horizon, definitely encourage you, check that out. It's specifically within Haven in January, starting on January 13th. We run quarterly accelerators, and our first accelerator is all about AI proofing your online course idea. So whether you have an existing course already out there or you are planning on an existing course, this might be a great accelerator to go through just to give you that confidence before you put the course out into the world. I'll tell you a little bit more of our teaching framework, but it's 3 weeks long. We meet on Tuesdays for an hour and 45 minutes. It's all over Zoom, very interactive, so it's not straight lecture. Week 1, we're going to talk about sustainable community. Week 2, blue ocean strategy, and week 3, meaningful gamification. Now, we, again, take a little bit of a different approach. I think sometimes for many of us, we've done cohorts or done courses, and it's felt like a whole bunch of lecture, and then you're like left with a whole bunch of material but haven't really done any work. Again, we take a little bit of a different approach. We use this framework called the I do, we do, you do. And so with every one of these workshops, so week 1, week 2, week 3, we share what's working for us. And then we actually do some exercises together to cement some of your own learnings. And then you implement that to your online course while getting feedback from others and from our team. So the basic principle is learn, apply, and integrate it all together. So Haven specifically is, again, is a sanctuary for therapists that are building online income through courses, YouTube, podcasting, writing, and speaking. And even as we were thinking about Haven, I put the screenshot here. We've been thinking about this for the past year and really started working on this over the last 6 months. One of the best decisions I made is I asked 12 of our colleagues to join us, and we called it our Haven think tank. So these colleagues helped shape the direction of Haven. So what's included in Haven, what's not included in Haven, how do we think about this? And these colleagues come from a world of different experiences. They're doing public speaking, they've got training companies, they've got courses out in the world, they're podcasters, they're YouTubers, they're writing a book, they've got a book out in the world. So all of these folks help to shape Haven. And you probably get this vibe from just me and Melanie, just how we sort of talk. This isn't kind of like a hustle, chaos, like performative growth kind of community. It's very calm, it's structured, it's life first. So many of us are parents, many of us are caregiving, many of us have other responsibilities beyond just business. And so it's like slow and measured growth versus sort of that hustle culture kind of vibe. It's very community driven. We really believe that community is going to be one of the most essential parts of online business going forward. And so what's included inside Haven, really quick, access to every STC online course that is out there. So our podcasting course, our course on courses, our online course roadmap. We've got a LinkedIn course for therapists that's coming out. All of that's included. You get access to it. You get access to four accelerators every year. So there's basically January, April, July, and October. We have accelerators. So they're either 3 weeks or 4 weeks. The ones in January and July are 3 weeks, and the ones in April and October are 4 weeks long. It's just because of 4th of July and then that New Year's, we decided it would be too much to try to do 4-week ones. On the months and the weeks that we don't have the accelerators, we have weekly co-working sessions. So this was one of the biggest things of like, Mel, we just want a place to be able to work together on something. We do those. And then we have monthly office hours as well. So the office hours look a little bit different. Sometimes they're what's called hot seats. So one person asks a question they're struggling with, and our team and everybody else gives feedback in terms of what they do. Other times we bring in a guest expert who's done something that we want to do. So for example, one of our guest experts is going to come in and talk about self-publishing a book versus traditional publishing, sort of the pros and cons of both of that. Inside of Haven also, we have daily community, again, on Voxer. And community is 3 things. So you have one chat that's just for announcements. You have one chat that is whether you're new to online income or you're kind of a seasoned person, you have a chat with folks that are in that same season. And then you have a little pod of 5 to 7 colleagues who are going to be your buddies for the next quarter, right? So this is a way for you to have accountability, for you to build friendships. We are in every pod. That's something a little bit different than a lot of communities. I know it can feel like, oh wait, where's Mel and Melanie? But we're there. And so if you need us for anything, we got you. You're never like stuck like, oh gosh, I have to wait till the next coaching call or something like that. I mentioned the in-person meetup. So we meet up at 2 conferences every year, grab dinner, build friendships. And then there's also a monthly video. So as I build out Quiet Builder, all of the little decisions that are happening behind the scenes, every month I focus on one topic and say, here's what I'm doing. So for example, our first video is going to be my decision to trademark Quiet Builder, what going through the trademark process has been like. We submitted a trademark for that name. And so what that process has been like, some of the lessons that I learned, even I had a crazy situation where I was almost conned out of money by somebody claiming to be from the Patent and Trademark Office. And sort of all the little things that you have to figure out and navigate if you're ever going to trademark anything. Why join Haven? One is just accountability. You actually have people that are like cheering you on and being like, hey, you said you were going to do this. Second is community of other therapists who get it. Like there's only a certain percentage of therapists. Most therapists will stay in just full-time clinical work. But then there's folks like us that will expand beyond. And sometimes if you have conversations with folks that are just staying in clinical work, there's a lot of like therapist shaming stuff. That doesn't happen in our community because we're all sort of like-minded and thinking like, how do we use our skill set, our clinical skills in a way to like both impact and income beyond the therapy room. And then for me, you get mentorship from me. Been a psychologist again for 10 plus years. Melanie has been in the online business space for 14 years. We work together a lot. I've had the good fortune of having two $400,000 revenue products, so we've learned a lot. Some kind words. Melanie, I don't know if you're able to kind of read this, but would you mind just reading this? Because my screen seems to be a little small here.
Let me make it really big. This is all mine too. Okay, so this is from Nina. It says, joining this mastermind is one of the best professional decisions I've made. Mel delivers a wealth of practical, tactical strategies with depth and in several ways goes beyond the scope of the mastermind in pretty mind-blowing ways. He teaches us how to use AI power and scale our work, provide complex organizational systems spanning from multiple platforms, and draw from several other experts to broaden our approach to product development. I gained far more than the straightforward process of creating a course. I fundamentally reshaped my practice and professional identity and gained expansive clarity on what to build for my business.
Awesome. And I Nina was so a couple of these stories. These are actually because Haven is a brand new product. We actually pulled from our existing product, and so Nina's actually going to be one of our members in Haven. Most of the 12 beta members that helped us shape Haven are already members inside of Haven, and so we've got a really nice core group of people. The second one is Susie. Melanie, do you mind just reading sort of like just briefly, maybe even the just the highlighted yellow parts?
So Susie said, oh, and Susie's here, by the way. I saw that she said hi in the chat. Hi,
Hi,
Susie.
Susie.
She said, joining Mel's Elite program has been very impactful and helpful professional decision. This isn't a get rich quick program. It's a deep, deliberate, soulful scaffolding for building something that's yours in integrity and service and in flow with your work and life balance. And I can put these in the emails too. So after this, I can email you these testimonials so you can all read them. But yeah, those are so sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Nina and Susie, for sharing those. Within the Haven sales page, which Melanie will link to here shortly, there's a section that says other testimonials, and we call it like the wall of love. There's a whole bunch of other ones that are there. There's two ways to join Haven. You can join for the year at $1,497, or you can join for the quarter at $497. If you join for the quarter, you get access to at least one accelerator, multiple office hours, multiple work sessions, and you get a pod. If you join for the year, actually get one accelerator free, right? That's kind of built into the pricing, and you get those monthly videos. That's the Behind the Quiet Builder videos. Mostly, we wanted to make this very budget friendly because I know for many of us, we want to create a course, but we also don't want to like sign up for these super expensive programs, not knowing whether the course is going to get off the ground. And we thought this would be a way like less of a lift, and in order to build out the course. We have two bonuses for you guys that are watching this. One is we have our online course master checklist. This is basically a checklist that we have obsessively worked on and developed over the past 10 years. Literally like step one, step two. This is great if you have an existing, if you're thinking about a course and you're like, hey, I just want a checklist of like what to do step by step. The second thing is for those of you guys that are joining here on watch this webinar and end up joining, just shoot me an email and just after you join and just say, and it's melvin@sellingthecouch.com, and just say, hey Mel, I watched the webinar, and we'll send you those bonuses. But the second bonus is like I'm just basically going to record kind of a video on how to AI proof your online course. So a lot of what I shared today, but kind of going a little bit deeper into what all of that looks like. This is where you can learn more about Haven. Melanie will put this URL both in the chat. Melanie, if you could also just pin it when you get a chance to, but it's sellingthecouch.com/Haven. If you're also just have your phone with you, you can just scan the QR code and it should take you directly to the sales page. The other thing, final thing I wanted to mention is, we, as and you'll see this in the sales page. There's a section that says sort of quiet impact. And so one of the things that we even really thought about Haven was, as we build it, how do we build something that is good for business, but also good for the world? So 10% of every Haven sale goes to a scholarship fund that is going to rescue, that's going to be a scholarship fund that supports girls that have been rescued from brothels and the commercial sex trade. So this is something I've had a heart for various reasons. I actually worked with an NGO when I was in grad school, working in Bombay, India, which is one of the largest red light districts in the world. And I sort of see education as a way to sort of break multi-generational patterns of exploitation. So again, the link is over at sellingthecouch.com/haven. Melanie, I know we had some really great chats. So even if you guys have questions about Haven, questions even that we didn't answer, please leave them in the comments. Melanie will check those. I know we had some other questions as well, Melanie, so I'll turn those over to you, and then we'll spend about the next 15 minutes or so answering questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to actually talk about this comment that Jared left. He mentioned that he is trying to move from hourly pay. He's working on building an ecosystem and wondering what the next thing should be. So he's pre-course. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about who Haven is for and who else is joining, like who's the right person and where are they at so that does he feel like he would be in the right place for him?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, even within our think tank, right, like the 12 members, what we found is there were folks that were very early on in the course creation journey, i.e., they were thinking about it, but they haven't had their course out in the world. And then others that have their just launched their course, and then others that have actually had their course out for several years and now are focusing on like, okay, course was my first step, and now I think I'm going to jump into like public speaking. So we actually have all sort of three of those types of colleagues in the course. And I think the real benefit of that is when you have somebody that's a lot further along, they can be like, hey, Jared, you might want to just watch out for this kind of thing because that I ran into that and didn't realize that was the thing. But then you also get to ask and share little questions and it forces folks that are further along to be like, wow, that's a really good question. So I would say Haven, it really is for, if wherever you are in the course creation journey, it is for you. Specifically, this first accelerator, the way we designed it, it's built for anybody that either is thinking about a course already or already has a course out in the world. Because I think AI is going to impact, and it's already impacting all of us. And I think it is smart to think about things like, what is my blue ocean? How do I build community? Those kind of things when it comes to our course.
Awesome. And then do we just want to talk a little bit about the pods and how that impacts where you are in the community, what that looks like? Um,
Yeah, of
that would
course.
be helpful.
Yeah, so when you join us, you're going to complete a survey that will let us know where you are in the online business journey. Based on that, we're going to group you guys into pods. There's also some other questions, like, what do you see as your strengths, all of that. And then based on that, we'll put you into little groups of 5 to 7. So you'll have your own Voxer group. We named every Voxer group after trees, like Haven, kind of carrying it on, right? So you might be, it might be aspen or oak or whatever it is. And within that, you have 5 to 7 colleagues, and these are your buddies. They become the ones where you talk to on a day-to-day basis. We are in every pod again. And so if you're like, hey, my group is like struggling with this question, like Melanie, what do y'all think of this? Right? You can easily tag us. Like we're literally just a tag away. So you have that pod. Then you have another pod if it's like all beginners or all veterans. And so you'll either be in the beginner or the veteran pod, depending on where you see yourself on the journey. So the benefit of that is you get to talk with others who are at similar stages who are not in your pod. And then the final pod that we have is just sort of a general announcement pod. We try to keep it very simple. So general announcements like, hey guys, just a reminder, we have an upcoming coaching call, or our next accelerator is happening Tuesday. This is where, I and Melanie will give you guys announcements so that you guys always know exactly what's happening. Obviously, we'll share things over email. You'll get lots of notifications, all of that kind of stuff. So,
Awesome. And then adaptive parenting, I'm not sure the name, sorry. They are a pre-course. They have done this course in person once, and now they want to shift it into an online version with a community. And I think that's so interesting. You've already tried it out. You already have a little bit of knowledge of what you want to do, but obviously it's a huge, huge shift taking it online and getting it set up. So do you have any feedback or advice for them?
yeah, I mean, first of all, like, I think it's amazing the humility by which to be like, you know what, like, this is this worked for this season and I need to like tweak it, right? I think one benefit I think of joining this particular accelerator is we can really tackle like what does community look like for adaptive parenting, right? What does it look like for me as a course creator? What does it look like for these parents? Because I could imagine a lot of these parents are overwhelmed, busy, super slammed. And so what how do I present this in a way like they may not have, for example, they may not have time to go and be in a Facebook group and check a whole bunch of pods, right? Like stuff that's happening. They may or may not, we don't know. But I think what we'll do is within every week. So, for example, the community week, we'll share like, hey, here are some of the top communities or types of structures that we've seen work really well, and then we'll say, for example, let's say we'll throw out like a course idea, and we'll kind of work together. What sort of community do you think would work well for that, and why? So this cements sort of your learning, and then you'll get some time then to be like, okay, we've thrown a whole bunch out. Now, what do you think works well for you? But that's not the cool thing with doing these live accelerators is you then may go into a breakout room of like 2 to 3 people and you're like, hey, this is what my course is about. This is how I'm thinking about community. What do y'all think about that? So you get sort of feedback from other colleagues. So it helps you also think a little bit differently.
Awesome. And then can you just tell us a little bit more about the January 13th accelerator?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, we start the first accelerator for Haven is going to start on Tuesday, January 13th. So we meet 11 a.m. Eastern to 12:45 Eastern. We made it a little bit later for our colleagues that are on the West Coast. And so that would be 8 to 9:45 on Pacific time. And that specific accelerator is, again, we called it how to AI proof your current or future online course. So specifically, we're going to tackle those 3 components that we talked about today. So gamification, blue ocean positioning, and community. And each week you'll add pieces to your course to be like, and so by the time you're done with the 3 weeks, you'll know some gamification elements that you want to put in. You'll know how to position your course so it's a blue ocean. And then you'll also know how to do sustainable community and what does sustainable community look like for you.
So I'm so excited. That's going to be amazing. Those are all the
Yeah.
questions that we have. So again, and I mean, I'll send an email with the replay and all the things. So if you guys have any questions, just hit reply to that email and we are happy to reply and help.
Yeah, absolutely. Those 2 bonuses, I know sometimes on these webinars, it's like sign up before the webinar is over. Otherwise, you don't get the bonuses. We don't really operate like that at all. That like stresses my nervous system, and I know it stresses Melanie's out.
Totally.
So, you guys, we left this open for 72 hours. So today's Wednesday, until Saturday. If you watch this replay and you end up signing up for Haven, then we'll still include those bonuses. The piece that I did want to mention is we are putting a cap of 50 members into Haven for this first round because honestly, we want to build this thoughtfully and sustainably. We want to focus on real relationships and real connection. And we want to make sure that we serve you guys well. And I think at this point, like that's really all we have room for. About 12 to 15 of the spots are taken with beta members. So if you are interested, you may want to join sooner than later, but no pressure or anything like that. If you have any questions or anything, you're just like, hey Mel, like I'm thinking about this, but is this the right thing for me? Look, we're colleagues. Like I'm happy to give you like a straight answer. So just email me at melvin@sellingthecouch.com. All right. Other than that, well, thank you all for taking the time to tune in and have a great rest of your day. Bye.